Hello, thank you. So nice to see so many familiar faces and new faces. Thank you so much all for coming. My name is Jacquelyn Zong-Li Ross, and I'm the art editor of the Capilano Review. I'm very honored to have the pleasure of welcoming you here tonight for what is the second reading in our new monthly reading series, Dear Friends. Thank you all of you for attending in person, and to everyone currently attending by live stream, thank you for being here. We are gathered here tonight on the unceded ancestral territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh peoples, nations who have inhabited this land since time immemorial and whose stewardship has made it possible for us to live and gather here at all. As an organization primarily run by settlers, we'd also like to call attention to the indigenous name, Capilano, an important hereditary title, often anglicized as Capilano, that has been used without acknowledgement in our journal's title since its founding in 1972. So if you're interested in learning more about the history of this name, we invite you to read the feature essay on our website entitled On the Name Capilano. Thank you to, I think Matea Kulich is here. Thank you so much for your work on this piece. So for those of you who are here tonight who maybe didn't already hear this in my last spiel last month when we did this again, if you're not familiar with the Capilano Review, TCR is a Vancouver-based nonprofit literary and visual arts journal that is published 3 times a year from our offices in the Vancouver Woodwards Heritage Building. Originally founded by Pierre Coupé at Capilano College in 1972, TCR has been independent since 2015 and just last year celebrated its 50th anniversary. TCR is now approaching its 150th issue, actually, this fall. And the Capilano Review's mandate continues to be the presentation of experimental writing and visual art, often in dialogue, often side by side. So if you'd like to learn more about the publication and the kind of work that we do in print and in programming, please visit our managing editor, Lauren Lavery, is here at the book table beside the bar. So please come visit us after the event and chat with us. We'd love to tell you more about it. We also have copies of our current issue. It's a thematic issue on the topic of bad feelings that was guest edited by Afua, Fen Stewart, and Jastaj Ledu. This past spring, as well as copies of our 3 recent 50th anniversary issues, which were published last year and are really special because they're taking the form of an experimental glossary, inviting over 100 artists and writers from the magazine's history to contribute new work to those pages. So please take a look at those when you have a chance after this event. So some thank yous. I'd like to extend our continued thanks to the Western Front for their generous collaboration with us on this series, and in particular to Susan Gibb, my co-host, Kiel Torres, Nathaniel Marchand, on tech, Ben, Quilly, Daniel, and Nazanin downstairs on the front of house. I'd also like to thank the Kootenai School of Writing for their support of this program. Christian Vistan, you're also here. You get a thank you at every event. Christian is our artist in residence for this reading series and has produced the visual background that you see behind me. This image is composed of rubbings Christian made of various carved and cast place name signs found around their home neighborhood in Ladner, thinking through ideas of joining, gathering, and conjunction that are also related to the ampersand that appears at the end of our Dear Friends series title. So Christian will be cohabitating this series with us all year long, producing new monthly visuals and ephemera, so thank you so much, Christian. So quickly, just a note about the format for the evening. So we have 3 readers. Each will be reading about 20 minutes each, and there will be no intermission. We're also doing our best to keep everyone safe at this event, so we have the windows open. We also ask that you wear your mask if possible when not eating or drinking. An all-gender washroom is available on this floor just outside the doors at the back of the hall, and an additional 2 washrooms are located downstairs in the foyer. So I think with that, that's it from me. So I'll invite my amazing co-host, Kiel Torres, to introduce our first reader of the night. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie, and thank you everyone for coming tonight. I am so excited to introduce our first reader, Leanne Dunic. She's a writer, editor, and musician living on the unceded and occupied traditional territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh First Nations. She is a fiction editor at Tahoma Literary Review and the leader of the band The Deep Cove. In reading Leanne's work, I was really drawn in by her diaristic voice and the intimacy she brings to writing about loneliness, labor, sensuality, family, both human and non-human, and the rhythms of home and identity. Her book of lyric prose and photographs, Wet, is forthcoming with Talonbooks in 2024. So let's welcome Leanne.
Thanks, Kiel. Thanks, Jackie. Thanks to all of you for being here. Can you hear me okay? Great. Well, I'm going to be reading from my forthcoming book, Wet, as Kiel mentioned. But first, I wanted to offer a little present. I was just in Southeast Asia, and I have this small, non-vegetarian, seafood-based treat from Singapore. And I'm going to give it to whoever looks like they want it the most. Okay, it doesn't look like anyone really, really wants it. They're prawn rolls. Okay, Jackson. But that's not all. Okay, so it's June 1st. Happy June. Did anyone have a bad May? You did. Okay, I would like to give you my May. This is from my Japanese calendar. It actually tears, and you get a nice postcard. And I know these are some kind of lilies. They're like, I don't know, peace lilies, canna lilies, I'm not sure, but they're vaginal. And so is my forthcoming book. So I'm going to give you my May, and maybe you'll look upon it and think of me, or maybe I'll pass it on to someone else. All right, that's all the prizes I have for today. So yes, it's June, and when I think of June, I think, oh, this is the birth month of Paul McCartney. I also think that this is the month that last year we broke rain records before like June 11th or something like that. And then when I think about the June the year before, I remember the heat dome, and those are weird feelings I get when I remember those Junes. And so I don't know what this June holds, but thinking about the heat dome and the forest fire smoke I was smelling last night and the night before, it reminded me of why I started this book. And I started this book in 2015. And 2015 was the first summer I had in Vancouver where I was really smelling the forest fire smoke and having it affect my daily life. And shortly after experiencing that summer, I went to Singapore. And when I was in Singapore, they were experiencing forest fires, and it was a totally different time of year, and Indonesia was burning, and it was that experience that got me to start this book, Wet. So this book is told from the perspective of a model who's living in Singapore and is observing this environmental trauma, as well as the migrant workers that are the people who hold Singapore together. So I'm going to read from that. When I worked in Shanghai last year, the model I shared bunk beds with screamed into her pillow every night. Now, an extra $400 is deducted from my earnings each month so I can sleep alone. Luxury living. An air conditioning unit hangs over my single mattress. I brush a dead moth from my pillowcase, smearing its shimmering essence on cotton. Above, water rushes through pipes. An echo from the stairwell, someone clipping their nails. In Shanghai, the apartments were so cold that I slept in my winter boots and coat, with my hat and scarf draped over my face. I awoke to cockroaches scuttling along the kitchen counter. Here, I wake up with a sweaty sheen and ants in the kitchen. The view, a cotton battened sky. Visibility, 2 blocks. Below, a gouged out urban hole. A metal dragon lowers a slat, then another, in a slow game of Tetris. Migrant workers wear canary-colored hard hats and boots, towels around their necks, torn fabrics for masks. I share this flat with a 15-year-old model from Poland and one from Russia who's 24 like me. A domestic helper from China sleeps on a futon behind the living room bookcase. None of us talk much. I asked the Russian girl why we had a maid, and her response was, well, the last one ran away, even though the maid agency had her passport. Fluorescent orange netting sections off walkways around the condo construction site, the kind found on oceanic garbage islands strangling seabirds and turtles. I grab a coffee and a bun from a hip cafe and notice the absence of tip jars. Think about the burrito joint in Seattle with the handmade sign, "Mark got shot, let's help him with his medical bills." Next door, a shop sells goldfish and turtles festering in plastic bags. I buy an ice cream sandwich from the shop at my housing estate, lap the quickly melting vanilla edge, smooth, layer after layer. I pass 3 construction workers washing their hands in a bucket of gray water, make eye contact with one. I look away, look back. He does not smile, eyes fixed on me. Small puddles form on the ground as the men clean themselves. Pigeons drink the water. Sometimes I take the bus rather than the MRT so that I can map this world I've fallen into. CCTV watches from point A to B. Cameras are everywhere once you notice them. I've watched men stretch prata dough behind hot grills on Northbridge Road, wandered the crowded clothing stalls at Bugas, explored the temples on Serangoon Road. On Sundays, I stroll Little India to see the boys holding hands, and I wonder why men in other cultures aren't as free to share their affections with one another. Also in Little India, I watch as a man cries as he is taken away by police. Like they do every weekend, the American and Australian models are going to Kuala Lumpur to party. They didn't invite me. I wouldn't go anyway. Don't they know the effect of drugs and booze on their skin? My cousin told me about Mao's campaign during the Great Leap Forward to kill the 4 pests: flies, rats, mosquitoes, sparrows. The people banged pots incessantly to prevent sparrows from resting. Soft stones dropped from the sky. What other animals fell? 45 million people, my ancestors. In this block, poisoned food is left for pigeons, for cats, for dogs, the hungry. As she kneads my foot, my masseuse asks me where I'm from. I return the question. Her, Sabah, Malaysia, speaks English, Tagalog, Bahasa Melayu. I'm surprised by her strength. She's 20. I'm only 4 years older, but weak and basically monolingual. Want 15 minutes body? $10 only. She guides me to a bed, clothes on, face down. She hoists her whole self on top of me, presses her rigid fingers along my body, thrusting them just outside of my hollow. Her fingers ream me through the stiff denim of my shorts until she claps palms on my back and says, "Okay." And now I'm helpless with want. Dream of stuffing envelopes, white envelope after white envelope, nothing inside but my fist. Models must stay hydrated, eat non-greasy food, no chocolate, exercise regularly. The agency impresses the importance of staying fair. Use whitening cream and an umbrella when walking under sun. I don't always abide by these rules. On the way to an audition, a faint voice behind me says, "Miss?" I turn around. A man stands timidly a few feet away from me. He points to himself. Me, Tamil, India person, no work. I know I only have $10 and that I need it for my lunch today. Surely he needs it too. I hand him a $2 bill, hoping I'll get this job and that next time I can give more. A rat runs across the sidewalk, then back again. He looks in my direction and runs toward me. I casually step to the side as the rat continues into the bushes. This is how I make friends. Women pull at my inner thighs to fit me into their shapewear. They talk around me. Do they think I don't understand because of my American accent? Once absorbed into the nude-colored, body-shaping undergarment, I walk the show with other size 0 models. My shoes are too small, but I smile and sashay in this unsightly underwear as if I'm fucking Cinderella, or like I need the $500. Train station at dusk, hundreds of birds in trees. This urban space in their migratory path, a mania. No rain, but thousands of liters of high-pressured water clean these roads each night. If this equatorial summer is over, why do these fires continue? This time, my masseuse looks to be my popo's age. She takes me to the bed and pulls the curtain around us. Clothes off. She doesn't leave. I strip to my underwear. Those two. I hesitate. We all girls. I do what I'm told. I have the respect your elders gene. Nature is failing. She burns and burns, forgetting what it feels like to be wet. And me, weathering, a salted cup waiting for damp. Nearby, forests and oxygen scorch. Not a sky-born drop, yet water pours from faucets. The helper cleans the bathroom twice a day. I only shower when I have to. Bathroom tiles look like chiclets. Under a layer of eggshell paint, a line of ants embalmed. Cats wail in the alley. Should I leave a dish of water out for the animals, or will that only breed mosquitoes? Who gets to survive? Fires consume bodies. We wear white masks to filter toxic breaths. Below, a child stomps on the plastic walkway set up around the construction site. As if unaware of her weight, she throws herself against the temporary railing. It does not break as I expect it to. The girl squeals, lifts the front of her shirt up to her shoulders. Only I am watching. Dear pigeon, your body is a rain-filled cloud. 2 strips of night band each wing. The aurora of your neck must magnetize you to earth. Why are you so anxious? You've made maps, but the city changes. You're famished, but the bread you've eaten crumbles your bones. The agency texts us to say auditions are suspended until the haze lifts. It's too dangerous to be outdoors. That's obvious. My hair smells like smoke every time I go outside. But this doesn't help my make money fast scheme, which hasn't been going as well as I had hoped. Maybe my Asian face isn't fresh enough here. Maybe I'm too old for this. Another morning, city, citizens, haze. Seattle gray sky without the rain. Is this what the end of the world looks like? I lean on the window ledge. A man sings while he pushes a wheelbarrow. A group of men wash their boots with the hose. One washes his face. No one looks up. I wash my face of toxins with foam cleanser. apply toner, then serum that repels free radicals, pop placenta pills. The skin around my eyes is sheer, clay in color, thin cracks beneath. It's nearly 11 p.m. and men still work below. I fall asleep to the gentle buzz and pop, small insect bodies against glass. Should we be wearing masks indoors too? I've gotten used to the smell of smoke and I can't tell if the air quality inside is poor. I watch a local TV program about raising autistic children and cringe with each use of normal. The helper is at another job, though I'm not sure what she does. I just know she looks exhausted when she returns to her futon behind the bookcase. Today, the Polish girl is leaving. She's going to work in Italy. I wonder what her so-called boyfriend thinks about that. I hope she gets the new beginning she surely wants. A girl from Brazil will take over her bunk in a few days. The haze only slows the machine. An upheaval of earth where a sidewalk will soon be. Disappointed I missed the drainage pipe installation, and now the soil is leveled and I will never know how such things work. I did learn that these workers learn less than $20 a day. Most owe thousands of dollars borrowed to come here for this opportunity. The form of the structure matures. The builder's lunch. Brown paper makes a plate for rice and gravy. Bare nutrition. Pigeons bob at their feet. Cats fight on the fire escape. I feel the vibrations from their bodies as they tumble. A shriek, a thunk, cries from below. Flies fuck on my knee. I slide slick fingers between lips. Contained within salted skin, a squall. Wave upon wave. Come wind, come flame. Curled fingers. Come, cloudburst. Come, pulled out of me. Watermarked sheets, that oceanic feeling. A flutter in my lungs, each inhale a hazed breath, dust and blood in my handkerchief. The city has sold out of masks. Outside, the sound of metal smashing metal, heat index in the low 40s. Workers wear long sleeves and cloths to protect their necks, their faces black with dust and sun. Everyone else preserved indoors. 2 months of this acrid haze. I order KN95 masks from Taiwan. How many to buy? Crowded House and I talk about past, present, and future summers. Sun shines on the black clouds hanging over the domain. Dust from a distant sun showers over everyone. That kind of view don't need an explanation. Everything is good for you if it doesn't kill you. Been waiting so long for these walls to crack. Every summer is a recurring dream. Ice will melt, water will boil. I beg this endless summer to lift their curse. No way to break the spell, don't tell. 100 silver packages in a cardboard box. Masks with a flexible metal edge to form against nose and cheekbone. My tote full, I walk downstairs to the site. The perimeter squared in by metal barriers. Above the awning, sheets with sound barrier printed on them. A provisional enclosure. I don't know how to be noticed. I place the masks in a pile by the orange netting. From my window, I wave good morning to the construction site. A masked worker holds his hand to his forehead. I pause, spread fingers on glass. The distance between, the width of the street, as close as we'll get. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Leanne. Dallas Hunt is Cree and a member of Wapsipipi Swan River First Nation in Treaty 8 territory in northern Alberta. His work has been published in Contemporary Verse 2, Prairie Fire, Prism International, and Arc Poetry. His first children's book, Oasis and the World-Famous Bannock, was published through Highwater Press in 2018 and was nominated for several awards. Hunt is an assistant professor of Indigenous Literatures at the University of British Columbia. Dallas, something that's always struck me about your work is the understated but clear-headed way in which it works to deflate colonial attitudes at the level of daily life, restoring a kind of indigenuity, honesty, and wit to the heart of the poem. We've been very grateful to publish your work a number of times in TCR, and we're really looking forward to hearing you again tonight. Come on up.
So I'm going to keep this brief. I like to stick to times, so I got 20 minutes. First, I want to thank the Capilano Review, the Western Front, for having me. I want to thank Leanne and Cristina for reading with me, because it's always good to read together. And I want to thank all y'all for coming here. I have no gifts or presents, except for dread. So I hope you're here for that. So this is a new manuscript that I'm reading from, and so it's still in development. And I'm finding it's a little on the sadder kind of side of death, and I don't know why, because I'm only 20 years old. Yeah, so anyway, Tansi Nita Temtek, Dallas Hunt, Nita Gasson, Nia Noma, Nehel Egwa Wapisipipi Otinia. So hi, I'm Dallas Hunt. I'm from Swan River First Nation. I'm Cree and a member of the nation I just said. I just want to make a quick statement here. And this is just really to kind of contextualize, as was said, I'm an assistant professor, basically a professor at UBC, and I want to contextualize the sort of the way in which we engage with land acknowledgements. So I also have Brit Scots in my heritage as well, which is why I'm so pale. But before I begin reading and recognizing the somewhat increasingly complicated nature of land acknowledgements, I would like to give thanks and recognize the increasing nature of giving these oftentimes can be sort of performative gestures. So it's always people worked long and hard to have land acknowledgements be a thing. And I want to emphasize that we're gathered today on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of not only the Musqueam peoples, as well as in relation to the Squamish and Tsleil-Waututh Nations, First Nations in the area of Vancouver more broadly. That was one of the best land acknowledgements I've heard in a long time, so thank you for that. But in the past several years, territorial acknowledgements have become commonplace in Canadian institutions, higher education contexts, and other so-called public institutions. These acknowledgements create the possibility for substantive considerations of what it means to be teaching, learning, researching, and living on Indigenous lands, but this is only the beginning rather than the end of the conversation. Métis scholar Chelsea Vowell asserts that moving beyond territorial acknowledgements means asking hard questions about what needs to be done once we're aware of Indigenous presence. It requires that we remain uncomfortable, and it means making concrete, disruptive change. And I think it's what we're all here to do. So I thank you for being here. Land acknowledgements are preceded by relationships with vital, political, living Indigenous peoples and communities to acknowledge the land and one's relation within it. It is to recognize and to adhere to one's ongoing commitments to these communities. Land acknowledgements are an articulation of a relational obligation. They are more than a performative gesture, but rather an iterative commitment to the peoples other than human kin, waterways, and relations that sustain these lands. Now, I know how ridiculous it is to read a statement like that while wearing a Whitney Houston t-shirt, but I did it anyway. And I have a lot more to say, but y'all came here to read poetry or hear poetry, so I'm going to read some poetry from a new manuscript that I'm writing. It's called Teeth, and it will be out next year. So, crux. An ocean means so many things. It lulls and hushes. It's a litter of dreams, and how they float, fail. Our dreams so often fail. Oceans are beds of rocks, abandoned shells, crustaceous families dispersed and destroyed. A hull here, a bed to lie in, to build and leave a wave, a swallow. I rode a hope across the ocean once, and as the waves lapped against the sides, the boat capsized and tipped, and we collided with the reef. I think that's the first time I felt a dream in real time, splinters and blood all at once. So often dreams are desires and broken teeth. Suplex. Andre the Giant, a cousin, a relation, with a face like a steam engine, half doofus, half MacArthur Grant Fellowship, you and I, two hearts pulsating and pumping overtime to mechanize muscles in a husk that will not live past 45 years old. You were never meant to be a heel, but commerce makes heels of us all. I hope you're in a vineyard somewhere, with full belly, sweat dripping, greenery chanting your name, sun beating, and finally small in the face of all small things. Axe. He gives you ghosts, but a hotel room is a forest fire, like when your dad would flood the back rink and then would beat his wife. A body is a garden of thistle thorns and failed attempts, but how good would it be to be engulfed by the sun? Sucklings in awe as your body topples. I don't mind, I really don't. I'll die someday. Because an axe makes kindling. And what will it make of me? I told you this was going to be sad and about death. Just a heads up. There's a place between love and ruin. I'm going to die either way. It's all about how I get there. I'm tired of myself. The thing about your heroes is they never save you, which should be a deep-seated contradiction, but it makes sense, and self-pity helps no one. People can smell a crisis. A crisis at times is not only how we're constituted, but it's the very form in which we're driven out of the world. The hope is to find an ocean nested in shoulders, to reside there when the tidal waves come. And then love names the ruin. I got a lot of time up here, holy cow. All right. What heaven? Spring, sapid, leaves, endless crying, a pallid face on a warm day. I can't wait to go to hell. You're sad, too. You just outrun it better. I'm a boil that needs... Let me start again. I'm a boil that needs to be lanced off this earth. My sense of self is a destructive fiction. Where to go from here? A group of fictive selves could be revolutionary, but we'll just get lazy. An affective commons would be great if heaven didn't have such a heavy fist. I guess I should have named this poem Horizons and Their Heavy Fists. Dim. All books are warning, and yet the future. Anger is a door, and maybe that's not a bad thing because it can open, but yet a stoop can be so lonely and tightly sealed that you only glimmer next to the moths, who won't leave you alone, and they stick to the top of door frames. But in truth, you're the visitor here. I want to love the light so much I tear myself in two. Colonization is a sundering that sits with you on the balcony, an occupied share space, a microcosm of the world. Anyone watch The Green Knight? Any? Oh, of course. Okay, well, this is about that. Everyone is so small. Inverted shells cowering softly, dim lights, dank basements, frail yet somehow blossoming. We make beds out of moss, damp grounds sprouting quickly, tiny waves under creaky branches, heads in the sand. Creepily languid ruin, every occasion if you can, ruin, and the rain will come after to fill you up, because droplets disperse, die, and once plump with liquid, you will die too. That's called Green K, and it's about a good film. I want a happy one here. Come on. Not so happy, but let's go for it. Okay. There's a poem for everyone. I'm tired of Indian poems. Imagine a poem that wasn't about deer, moose, or salmon, that we complained about how shitty the weather was, how a bush didn't offer the berries we wanted, how hard it can be to make a birch bark hat. I want a poem that doesn't tell how difficult something is because colonialism has made it so, but rather the elements, our relatives, being assholes and hard to work with, probably on purpose and intentionally so. A poem that sees us struggle with our kin because we fight with one another. And once this colonial edifice falls by the wayside, which, no spoilers, it will, we still have to grapple with the fact that some of our relations are difficult, but so are we. Yet love is a tear duct that never closes, no matter how frustrated we are. Do I have to be Richard Wagamese? Just imagine if you were outside the bounds of legibility, especially by literary communities, where you didn't have to write about trauma and moose meat and berries. Okay, let's see. 7 minutes, wow. Y'all gave me too much time. What is this? Okay. Shock. This is for Fred Ottman, who I never know, or who I know nothing about. Yeah, I'll read it and then I'll explain. Speckled silver, an announcement, a dirty floor, a stage. Everyone here in ridiculous, yet somehow you're viewed as the most buffoonish of all, and yet something about you is abjectly tender, like you tried at something your whole life and failed. But you tried, and now you coach Little League. The shoddy drywall, a guillotine, a safety manager, but you spill and spill and spill. And they laugh, bemoan, and curse. But you rise above it all, do your spot, and vanish in a way true to your name. So Fred Ottman was a wrestler. He was the Shockmaster was his name, and he looked ridiculous. And upon his first entry into wrestling, which I've now read 2 wrestling poems, which is strange, in relation to death, what he does is he makes his grand entrance, but he falls through a wall, and his helmet falls off. And unfortunately, other wrestlers in the area are mic'd, and they're saying things like, "Oh shit, fuck, he fucked us up," like just really abolished in that moment his career. And so I hope Fred Ottman is a good person, because I know nothing about this person, and I wrote a poem about them. But that moment of vulnerability and, willing to be tender means a lot to me. Okay, 169 anomalies. So where I'm from, Swan River First Nation, we had, several residential schools. I don't really like to write about residential schools all that much, but we had Gruard and Jusard, Slave Lake, Lesser Slave Lake. We had all of these residential schools. And so I want to read about the one that my grandfather went to. 169 anomalies. 169 anomalies is a brutal and brutalizing way to end a sentence. In the present, it asks, how do we hold space in this world? Nuns used to break rulers on my grandfather's hands, while missionaries declared, I can work the weight of God off you. And then your family members sit in an unmarked grave. The enormity of this is hard to comprehend. My ancestors were not anomalies. They were children navigating a world made too cruel for them. A benevolent country with 169 bodies in 1 acre with 2 acres left to search. Musqueam, Cree word. Learn Cree. It's a fun language. I wanted to feel long distance, a landscape like a braid, blades that cut like grass. I wanted to float above everyone like an angry prairie sky, 10 minutes of rain, a gentle fist. I wanted to house geese. Water crushes when it runs, flooding runs, ruins, a fence. I wanted you in the prairies, bouquet of wild roses and crude oil, the roundest part of a flat universe. I wanted teeth that were a map of the world, scaling an oil rig for a better view, a knot of entitlements and fierce loves. I wanted the world, but got the prairies instead, an earth that spreads and spreads and spreads. I got 2 minutes. Let's see here. It's gonna. Okay, so my Cookham, my grandmother, passed away this year, and I'll just finish with this, and I'll get out of here. All right. So for Helen, Notes on grief. Grief is a house painted matte black to suck in the sun. Grief is all the fixtures of your condo wearing to spill or break at a moment's notice. Grief is your cookum's hair falling out because of chemotherapy, you a patient but failing hairdresser. Grief is everyone bickering and squalling while trying to set things right. Grief is a cineplex, wherein a house shushes, an open casket, a theater into resentments of the living. Grief is a gathering that no one wanted to attend, yet obligations are the heaviest millstones to sink with. Grief is a family entangled, spiteful, and yet declining slowly together like a sunset. You still gave me too much time. Okay, let me finish this. What do I got? My heart is fine. They say if you try to run while attempting to detox, you risk heart failure. I ran today, 10 kilometers to Jackie Wilson's Lonely Teardrops. But did you see the sun today? Mean-mugging geese, a superfluous pool, which I actually walked into unaccidentally one time, near a beautiful shoreline, and you panting while you poison yourself through your battered organs, your footsteps, a palpitation to an impending flatline. Thank you so much. Hi. Thanks, everyone.
Cristina Holman lives and writes on the unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh Nations. I met both Cristina and Christian in 2017 when we were both participants in the Artspeak Studio for emerging writers. And over that course of the year of writing together, I learned so much from Cristina and was always so obsessed with the sense of humor she brings to pairing images with sound and her ability to write through the delights and anxieties of being perceived. Through Artspeak, Cristina published her debut chapbook, Stop Wincing, We're Fine, and her second chapbook, Repeater, was published in 2021 by Zed Press. She was also a participant in the 2022 Banff Center Spring Writers Retreat, and more of her work can be found in Bad Nudes and Poetry is Dead. And Cristina is currently working on a full-length collection that's called Glaze. So let's welcome our final reader, Cristina Holman.
Hello. Thank you for the intro. I am very excited and grateful to be part of this reading series, and thank you everyone for being here. So I'm going to start by reading a few pieces from my chapbook, Repeater, which was published by Zed Press a little while ago. And that chapbook was sort of about fear and loneliness, feedback loops, and then letting people through your defenses. And then afterwards, I'll read some newer work from the collection I'm working on. So I'm going to start with these very short loop-shaped poems that are scattered throughout the chapbook. They're just loops 1 to 4. Hell is a conga line. I live amid people. I am also a person. I'm a hopeful repeater. A bird I trust. When I was young, my nonna would point at every gray seagull and say, "That is Sebastian. Say hi to Sebastian." I would nod at my protector, adolescent marine bird, always there. Today I hold the seagull feather I keep with my pencils, lick egg yolk from my cuticles. I woke at 9 belay for hours, falling in and out of this nightmare. Sebastian yelling obscenities at me, saying really terrible things. This feather is old. It's fraying at the stem. I scratch a portrait of Sebastian on my skin. I hear his voice in my head, saying I have no courage, telling me I'm not really living, saying I am dull and badly shaped. Before flying away, Sebastian said I was unlovable. I turned the feather over, traced the line of his beak with the soft part. It hurt like hell, hearing my fear voiced by a bird I trust. The next two are both called Pink Fears, because they're sort of like the twins that bookend the chapbook. Pink Fears. I've been holding this limbo tight to the skin. The smart women I drank with went into the night. They left me in a rainstorm neon vacuum, like a pew bathed in stained light. Could have moved in a line behind them, swept across the city. Instead, I lean from the awning, ease into the storm, step through whirlwinds, coat and form shifting. Dark, cold water from the home tap. Living, reliving, Tsleil-Waututh, mud trench, river of amber. I'm thinking of a friend who touched my hand when I said I couldn't connect, of the surreal novel he gave me. Old pink fears bruising by the oat milk. Write the word stasis and leave it. Rest your jaw on the window pane, cry as mice leap the gutter. All the neon in the rainstorm seeks its own corner. Pink Fears. Late in the night, I sit up. The weight of my looking warps the curtain light. Not often, I enter the lighthouse, megalamp beam loop. There's care in illumination. I think illumination is loving. I think I'm sweeping for something in the wide hidden ocean. You take my place and I'm haloed in the light, pressing certain bruises, waiting by the inlet. You colored my whole hand blue with a ballpoint. Please hold me like a planet holds everything. Old pink fears wash off and die, pinned in the beam as we lose the tide. All right. So this is the last one I'll read from Repeater, and it's called Rock Biopic. All across town, teen boys were picking a deep note on their bass guitars. They were getting used to rhythm. We lounged before the houses with earthen mugs of gin. They were a mood in the grass, mouthing notes. Odd thoughts ferment in repetition. I said to them, who on this planet will birth and die with me to the minute? They let their heads sag and leveled. The thing about mystery is I'm fine with it. I've been snapping my fingers when idle, keeping time with nothing. I've been suppressing dreams of wild dogs chewing up drum sets. Most bipeds on this planet are eating yogurt, espousing takes on that big rock biopic. I have needs that are bigger than this. The teen boys ceased. Cold crept through the housing block, and they spilled their drink. Didn't curse. Took my wrist, found a pulse, sort of sang to it. Was this music? They hummed as teen girls placed books on home pianos, and when they played their scales, we rocked to it. Okay. So now I'm going to read from Glaze, which is the collection I'm working on. I'm definitely more excited to read these poems just because they're currently on my mind. Glaze is about the subconscious, about covering and uncovering, and about the body. And I've just been exploring these things through these really sticky and uncomfortable textures and symbols. And I'm thinking about the concept of glaze not in a cake way or a pottery way, but in a cocoon, really gross kind of way. So this one is called Amen. Features glaze in the dark. Having a flashlight is gauche again. Gel only knows about glossing over. Give us this fruit without mystery, that we may imitate. Sweet Clement, you are slick on gray laminate. As a teen, you walked for hours at night in thin sweaters. Now the windows are wet and the people outside are warped and dim. For half a year, you've had paranoid visions of night killers, that we may imitate without knowing it. Give us this. Pull the beetle from the pith. World without end. This one is called Glaze. I see it thicken, and I know that it is dumb. Gel only knows about covering. 5 o'clock tangerine sun float, heating me. I see kids doing punches in the studio downstairs. I write lean poems and eat. Leave all art events. Get licked. Thick orange gel out of everywhere. Let your features glaze. Big, slick face. Take nighttime pictures of your reflected body in bus stop ads. Pose yourself pressed against giants. Print and hang them in your rented room. In one photo, I reach towards Aquaman as he gazes at a hammerhead. Every night, I sleep on my side to prevent drowning, and I wake, coughing, spitting on the pillow. Focused. You ripped out some carpet. The reveal of 1,000 silver teeth, spiraling herds of frightened beetles. Oh, you said. I was silent. Watched from within thinking it was unfair and too quiet. Later, I saw your little tears sink into the sheets I'd bought. I pushed you aside and got into bed. Life for me had thinned. My essence had left. I saw it from time to time, screaming out of a glass shop front, blinking its flashlight. This one is a found poem. It's drawn from Sonic Meditations by Pauline Oliveros, who was a pioneering ambient musician and an early synth player who I learned about in a documentary. And she wrote these instructional pieces that were for groups of people, and they were supposed to encourage deep listening. So yeah, this is Special Procedures. She attempts to erase music in the courts. Members of the group tuning, mind and body dim blue, non-verbal changes. Fathers becoming mentally blank, actively imagining special procedures. When or if a sound image becomes permanent, return to ancient forms. Halfway through, gradually introduce your voice. Continue as long as possible as an isolated soloist, remembering sounds, every flash source. Find normal house lighting, rest again if the generator is flat. Persons without rocks must be comfortable, either sitting or lying down. Only strengthen or sustain pitch. Listen to the environment as a drone, a cycle of sounds such as blood pressure. Sing-along tone, apparently flat for the human ear. Continue to tune slowly toward the center pitch. She has always been limited to particular forms in accordance with the church, so the transmitter controls the beginning of each cycle. You can reverse the direction of the pulse, sing any pitch, make any vocal sound, as long as possible until others are quiet. Music is a welcome byproduct. This one is a triptych, so it's in 3 parts. Body triptych. 1, Kinoto. Bitter liquid on your lip. In the hammock, you were rigid. A line of moths inside your limbs. Are you with it? Do you feel the lip and skin melt? Puddle at the neck and soak through. Pink flesh pools on the moss. Your jawbone will dry in the river breeze. Your soda bottle will roll into the stream. Are you the body? How are you? 2, insect. Here in the garden, you fold over. Chrysalis gel out of everywhere. Are you the body? Are you aware? Moving hum, piercing your casing, folding in orange, feelers waving. Are you there? Are you breathing? 3, cello. Morning, you are standing post-like. Something near is buzzing again, being activated by a chord from the street. Is this the way you were born to be? Feeling a little dim, folding in, folding, folding. Okay, this next one is a short little break from all the sad, weird poems that I've been doing. and it's called Swell of Sincere Emotion. Ocarina of time is about time, says my lover, as a bus rider rests her silver bob on a nearby tweed shoulder. Okay, so back to the sad stuff. At the risk of over-explaining this one, it is about like this weird long concussion I had last year, and how I suspect that toward the end my symptoms may have been at least like partially or may have become kind of psychosomatic, because they went away after I started taking SSRIs for a very severely undiagnosed anxiety disorder. So it is a weird thing to reflect on, and this poem is just me reflecting on that time. Cave story. Flashlights are gauche, but we need them underground. Bitter rock everywhere. Sometimes I lick it, think of Kinato, crunch grit, and remember I am unwell. Playing TV themes by ear. With each note I take 15 and say, it seems I'm getting better. Here my beam finds milk blue fungus, ruby pill bugs. I've come to know that each chamber holds a tone, so I howl my own to match it. It's sad, but somehow I love this lack of sense and purpose. My flashlight finds reasons to dip out, leave work dizzy. I take another lick and lie down again, only for the morning. With every step, I forget my body. Now when I catch a limb in the light, I hurl. Psychosomatic cave story. In the dark, I gnaw iced cherries from a cup, choose the dimmest passage forward. Listen to the long echo of that podcast. Get high, praise for nothing. Something on the ground is warm and glowing. I feel for a moment like how I felt at 23, writing a funny chapbook. The idea of the sea, of cutting my hair short. It's just a moss bed. I press up to my elbow. When I pull away, I leave a hand-shaped pool of warm, clean water. What do I learn from every headache? Tired brains love the dark. The dark is a place for hiding. Did I find the entrance, or did I fall in? Okay, so I have one more. It's another found poem. And it's from the transcript of the YouTube classic Outside In, which is a 21-minute long, grainy video narrated by these two disembodied mathematicians, have a really over-the-top explanation for how to turn a sphere inside out. And I watched all of it completely enraptured, even though I don't care about math or spheres, and it was very inspiring. Eversion. I read somewhere mathematicians can turn a sphere inside out. They work with sharp bends in blue, no bowls nor domes. What we need is a general method. Do you think allowing self-intersections makes it easy? Do you count the number of smiles or the number of frowns? Can you remain smooth throughout? Think of the sphere as a stack of circles. From pole to pole, the camera tracks the twisting of the guide strips. Sharp bends, okay. Hey, the trick is stop before the crease. Let the waviness die. Near a saddle, they form an X. You were infinitely tight, now entirely purple. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you to each of our featured readers. That was amazing. Thank you so much, Leanne, Dallas, Cristina. The light spotlight's on me. And thank you to all of you, of course, for being here and making space for this work. If you enjoyed tonight's reading, please join us again next month. We'll be back on Thursday, July 6th, for another of our monthly events in this Dear Friends series. For that evening, we'll be welcoming Danielle LaFrance, D.M. Bradford, and Jane Shee as our readers. And print schedule permitting, we'll also be ushering in a brand new issue of the Capilano Review, our summer 2023 thematic issue on the theme Interventions in the Archive. So we're really excited about that. We hope it will be printed in time. We're not sure. But please join us for the readings nonetheless. And Deanne Bradford will also be coming from Montreal, as will Deanna Fong, our literary editor, who will be hosting that evening. So it'll be a very special event. So please do come back. Otherwise, thank you again for coming. Please feel free to grab a drink with us, chat with any of us you can find here, catch 3 readers if you can, and we'll see you again next month. Thank you so much.